35 years of experience in the public sector, 25 years in the private sector. And where it all really came together when I went to Princeton. I was a professor in American Studies at Princeton University.
How long was this?
Excuse me?
When was this?
This is about, I guess it must have been in 2004. But I don't really remember the exact date. It was a semester. It was the winter semester. And I was a visiting professor, Ann Schultz, a visiting professor in American Studies at Princeton University. And, it just struck me that I wasn't really ready to retire. Reading and writing was very nice, but I thought I could do that. So that's the first answer. The second answer is that I think the Democratic Party is in real bad shape in the state of Florida. With all due respects to Bill Nelson and the Democratic congressman, we're not getting our fair share. We continue to get 85% of the $100 that we sent to Washington. We only get $85 back, and that continues. It's continued. I went up to the White House, who asked me the same question, and this was in October. And at that point, I said, well, in the stimulus money, we're 50th. Actually, we were 51st because Puerto Rico was 6. So we were 51. They got very upset with me. They sent me back and said, that's absolutely not true. Florida's 4th. And it turns out what they meant was 4th in job creation. And then it turned out that it wasn't job creation, it was the lack of losing jobs. So the answer is this. I think the Democratic Party needs to be a centrist party. I think that Barack Obama ran that way, and I think that that's not the way he's governed in 18 months. And I think the U.S. Senate is in a deadlock situation, and it needs the kind of talents that I think people like myself, well, of course I'm not unique, there are others, but I think that I have that ability. And I think I've had that ability, and I showed it very strongly in the 12 years that I was mayor of Miami, of bringing opposite sides together and bringing people together.
And why do you think you're running in the center and your primary
Well, of course, with Mr. Green, I don't know, because Mr. Green really has never had any political experience before. In the case of Kendrick Meek, in the Washington Post view of each of these candidates, has voted 98.6% of the times with the Democratic Party. Now, if you go back and do that with Lord Childs, Bob Graham, and Bill Nelson, none of them have voted 98.6% of the time with the Democratic Party. And the fact is that it wasn't higher than that because he was absent for 1.5% of the votes. So for the majority of the time that he was there, he was following the party line 100%. Now, if that's not being a liberal Democrat, I don't know how else you would define it.
Is it bad to be a liberal Democrat?
In my opinion, in today's world, it is bad to be a liberal Democrat because I don't think that liberal Democrats can get the job done. And what we need is to have a methodology of getting things done in the middle. I would propose to you that if it hadn't been for Everett Dirksen, Lyndon Johnson could not have gotten through either the Voting Rights Acts, or he couldn't have gotten through the Medicare-Medicaid package. So it took those 3 or 4 Republicans. You say, well, fine, it was only 3 or 4 votes. Yeah, well, that's all it takes. But you have to do that, the Democratic Party has got to go in the middle. It cannot do it from the left.
What would be an issue where you would think, what would make a piece of legislation right now, whether it's cap and trade or whatever, make it more centrist? How do you?
Well,
for example, the cap and trade that came out of the House is stuck in the Senate.
Yeah,
How do you make it more centrist?
Well, you and I both know that it's not going to pass.
Right.
There's no way it's going to pass the Senate. And I think that's a case in point. I think that's a good case in point. Look, the fact is that what we need is a new, bold economic development methodology through, in my opinion, a new energy, an approach to new energy. And I would use as my resource on that, I would tell you that the best guy that I think has explained that is Kevin Phillips in his book American Autocracy: The Rule of Oil and Credit. And he predicted exactly what's happened in the economy. But he also goes back and analyzes the importance of oil. And basically, he doesn't say this, but I say it. Oil was the source of not only of energy, but it also was the source of America's power for the past 100 years. It's time now to get away from oil. And I think what the president and what America needs to do is to go to new sources. Now that's a very complicated, long process, which is going to be very expensive, but it also is going to create a tremendous amount of opportunities and jobs, just like oil did. In other words, before oil, coal dominated the world. The British dominated coal, the British Empire dominated the world. When oil came on the scene, it was the recognition of the importance of oil, Standard Oil and others, that made America what it is. It's very clearly explained in that book that I just referred to by Kevin Phillips. The point is that in today's economy we really need to get beyond oil. The first step, for example, would be I would go to liquid natural gas. In Mexico and in a lot of other places, all buses and many trucks are operated in liquid natural gas. T. Boone Pickens is right. I think his plan makes a lot of sense. And he was also, by the way, talking about wind power. I think we also need to go to solar power. I think it is unacceptable for the Chinese today to be larger in wind power and in solar panels, photovoltaic manufacturing than all of Europe put together. Forget the United States.